Hey, this is Stephen Amell, and you are listening to Tomorrow's Legends, the podcast. Don't fail your city.
You think you know the story. You've heard it 100 times. But this is not the tale that you know, for this part of the story has yet to be written. Join Flash, Harley, and X-Force 11 as they take the Wave Rider into the near future and check in on some old friends. This is the new adventures of Superman and Lois, as chronicled by Tomorrow's Legends.
Yes, hello, super fam of Steel. We are back in Smallville for Season 2, Episode 7 of Superman and Lois, called Anti-Hero, or Anti-Hero, I don't know. There's always a debate on how to say that properly. This was directed by Elizabeth Henstridge, otherwise known as Gemma from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm sorry to say, guys, Reverse Flash tonight. Watch out.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh.
I'm Harley Quinn.
And I'm X-Force 11.
Hello, Legends.
And she's Gideon. All right, let's do some news first. Oh, you got a few points. All right, let's do this.
We interrupt this podcast for a special report.
What is up this week, X-Force?
All right, so I asked this week about the episode count. So over on Twitter, I asked Adam Mollinger, who's Bitter Script Reader on Twitter. He's one of the writers in the writer's room, and he said the producer has confirmed that in an interview slash podcast that the season is going to be 15 episodes long. So we've got 15 episodes in Superman and Lois Season 2, just like in Season 1.
Awesome. That's good news. That's better than 13, like we were guessing. So 15 is a nice medium number.
Yeah. And we've got a break next week, so no new Superman and Lois next week, but we'll be back the following week. And just a reminder, if you're listening to us now, you'll find out, but we moved our feedback deadline to Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern to give everybody a little more time to get in feedback and let us record so that we're not having to be up and at work early the next morning. So thanks for bearing with us, and we hope to get a little more feedback in too. So
yeah, exactly. And the break will actually help next week. I have not been able to finish my Peacemaker special episode yet, so that'll hopefully give me some time. Maybe next week I can work on that instead of doing this.
There you go.
Sounds good.
Get it done. So those of you that want to get Peacemaker feedback in, still send it on in. There's still time. And if you haven't watched it yet, now you got a chance.
I have not watched it yet. I have so many things on my to-do list.
Yeah. It's I loved it. That's your quick 2-second review. I loved it. So let's get into our show and what we thought of it.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
All right, X-Force.
I gave this one 9 brothers saving brothers. I was blown away by this ep. I thought Liz did a wonderful job of directing. I really enjoy the dynamic between Kal-El, Tal, and Bizarro. And I like that we harken back to last season with Lana and Lois talking and building that friendship together. And I also liked seeing the fallout from John's drug use. So I'm loving this season. I enjoyed this episode. Flash we'll get there, but that's what I thought about it.
As usual, Jeff and I are pretty right in line. I gave this one 9 disappointed mothers and fathers. I was quite shocked by a few things this episode. And I was disappointed, but in a good way, unlike our yellow counterpart over here. But I'm super...
The digs.
I know. We just do it because we love you. It's very funny. I'm actually really super bummed they killed Bizarro. That's one of the reasons that I probably only gave this a 9 and not really any higher than that. I thought for sure, like, with all the kryptonite that they threw at him, that he'd really be able to supercharge himself, even though he's on, like, a yellow sun Earth. But I guess Anderson won out, and we'll talk about all of this later. But speaking of Anderson, there's definitely no redemption for this guy. I was wondering what they were going to do with him, especially since they put Sam Lane basically in the same position and ended up redeeming him. So I kind of thought he would be on that same path. But no, he's just lost his damn mind, like, completely. He's off the reservation as far as I'm concerned. And I'm confused. I'm actually still confused a little bit about the point of John's drug storyline, but I did appreciate a lot of these moments. And I say this a lot, but parenting is hard. Being a kid is hard also. No one's perfect. I mean, it's just really hard to figure out those dynamics, and you really have to hope that your relationship can survive long enough for both sides to realize it. I may not have a teenager, but I have a 5-year-old that may as well be 15, and a lot of this stuff, obviously not the drug use, but a lot of these parenting dynamics really hit home for me this episode.
Little Harley, are you selling drugs to your kindergarten classmates?
Right? Oh, God. No, of course not. But no, just she's been having a struggle this past week.
She's pushing the Flintstone vitamins. That's what she's doing.
She's pushing something, but my buttons is what she's pushing.
Yeah. Well, I am coming in like the yellow-suited evil stepchild tonight.
Oh.
You guys, like... I'm going to get all of this out of the way so that we can have an enjoyable show, because there's just so much about this one that really...
This is long.
I really wasn't happy with.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I looked at it's like, woo!
I wonder if you guys ever pre-read, because I'm usually typing it up pretty late, so I wonder if you guys ever pre-read what I have to say. But anyway, for the first time in Superman and Lois's so far running, Flash is wearing his yellow suit, because this one barely gets a 6, maybe a 7. It might be in between there, 6.3582. I don't care. It's down there. It fails in all aspects to me. Now, I'm going to spend my time right now to try to convince you guys to maybe bring your score down a little bit, and then I hope the rest of the show is you guys trying to convince me to bring mine up a little bit. So we'll see what happens here, okay? So, good this episode was not. Absolutely the worst one this show has done to date, and it's unfortunate it falls under Miss Hemsworth's care, as she did not pull it all together. What a mess of a story, what a mess of direction, just all around crap writing for this far too good of a show to have one like this fall through the cracks. Let's start with killing off Bizarro. Why? He is such an intriguing character with a background we didn't even get to dive into yet. Now we'll never get to see what happened to him and his story that led to him coming here. Such potential wasted. And it did suck that Clark had to decide between saving Bizarro or saving Tal-Rho. Yes, dramatic decision it was, but not for one this early in the season. This should have been an end-of-season dramatic twist after they've come to understand each other, trust each other, and built a relationship that had some weight behind it, and for us, the viewers, to have gotten attached to, so that this decision and his death had an impact on the show and us, the audience. Instead, it ends feeling pointless and is disappointing to the highest degree. Next, take a sip of water. I'm finally with where you guys have been with Jonathan and this drugstore all along, and yet here it sounds like you guys suddenly appreciated this story. What a stupid choice to have him go the route of taking the fall for drug possession to protect a dumb girl that doesn't obviously care about him or what will happen to him at all. All she was concerned with was herself and what it will do to her life, and she pushed him into taking the fall. And do we care? Not in the least. Why? Because we barely even know her, or we don't even know their relationship to even get an inkling of a feeling that he cares for her so deeply that he's willing to ruin his life for her. Such empty writing there, and a complete drop of the ball. Third, let's turn to Sarah and her needing a friend to talk to that isn't her mom. We just talked about this in our Patreon bonus content last week about how do the writers bring back John Henry and Natalie that makes sense story-wise in this show. That was a question that Perry White asked us. Well, hello, the big red flashing red sun. Duh. Here's your chance. Sarah needs a cool friend she can confide in. Well, they already developed the story through line with Sarah and Natalie when they were fixing the car. They already showed us the chemistry of those two and that they could be really good friends and trust each other. We already had that well sewn into the fabric of this show. But no! You have to pull back on a storyline that everybody already forgot about because it was so lame as you could get, and you bring in some new girl from summer camp and rehash the one-time kiss story that was already annoying, and we have to sit through it again. Stupid, stupid, stupid. You had it right there to bring Natalie back and give her something to work with. Finally, for my opening rant, you have General Anderson, or whatever the heck his rank is. No one likes his character, and instead of giving him something to sink his teeth into to develop ongoing strife with Superman over the course of this season, they take the quick and absolutely cliche of all cliche choice of making him a super jealous, super whiny crybaby that he can't handle getting in trouble by his boss, so he mega doses on XK to go fight Bizarro. It's the worst moment of the episode. It's way too cliche, it's way too dumb, and it's way too totally lazy and boring writing. This episode just fails on all accounts except for a few small moments that were stellar, and that's mostly because of Tyler, as always, as we watch him struggle with these situations. And I did like him and Tal-Rho working together to trick the DOD. That was fun and unexpected. I totally bit on their ruse in the jail cell there. I like the long, slow building of their relationship that is being weaved throughout this season, which is why it boggles my mind that they don't do the same with all the other characters. John Henry, Bizarro, etc., for examples. It's like there's two separate writers' rooms or something. Anyway, my soapbox has gotten so high this time. Superman, come let me down, because I'm actually uncomfortable with these heights. And I'm done.
Wow.
Those are some very strong feelings. I will say that I agree with a lot of your points. They just didn't niggle me to the point that they did you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I totally agree
with
Natalie.
As long as I can get you to see where I'm coming from, if I can just get you to see that, you don't have to hate it as much as me, but just see where I'm coming from.
I see where you're coming from, mostly because I'm there, but the part that I didn't, and I'm not really a film person or like a film critic. I know we technically criticize TV shows like for our podcast, but like I didn't really have problems with the direction writing. I agree with like that was a really good opportunity to bring Natalie back, and I 100% thought she was calling Natalie and was legit shocked. And this comes in the notes when Aubrey showed up. And I mean, kind of. Anderson, I don't know. Like, I just felt like he was just crazy, like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and he just like went off the reservation. Like, that's just my read on him. But we can get it all into all of this. But anyway, like, no, I agree that I actually agree with all of your points. It didn't bring down the episode that much for me.
Didn't irk it as much.
Yeah. I felt like it all kind of went together. Like where I found it like surprising and shocking, you found it disappointing and like aggravating. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Just lazy writing, just really lazy writing for me.
See, I didn't really see it there. The only thing that I would kind of agree with you there where it kind of felt like out of left field was the Natalie Aubrey thing. I felt like it should have been Natalie, not Aubrey.
Okay.
But unless there's more, again, we're not even halfway through the episode. I bring this up, I know, at some point in the notes, but we're not even halfway through the episode, halfway through the season. So we kind of went this track season 1, and there was like a whole expansive story that by the end we were like, oh yeah, this is great. So I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt this season.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I'm disappointed about Bizarro.
Yes.
I wanted to see more of that, and there's not to say that we won't get flashes into that world and get to see some events behind things. But, yeah, I agree. I would have liked to see more and a longer-term story there. But
I'm hoping for flashbacks, honestly.
Yeah.
That would be cool. I mean, maybe it's too much for Tyler to play 2 roles for the entire season. I mean,
thought about that, too. Because,
yeah.
Still. it's still too damn cool. I mean, yes, we might get flashbacks, we might get insight into the other world because of Allie, but Bizarro won't be there. We won't get that story, which is where
but we can still get his story in flashback. It's not like we know how it ends, but we still don't know how it began. There's nothing saying they can't do that to flesh it out.
Yeah.
And they might.
Okay, well,
but anyways, let's
dive into it, and we'll see where your points lead. That was my opening argument. Now we're going to hear your argument for the rest of the episode. Let's get into it.
Okay, so we're going to start it off with the main point of the episode. So this is Clark, Talrow, Bizarro, and Anderson. So that's the bulk of the meat of the episode. All and right. I like that we pick up with Superman in the DOD cell next to his brother, and this is just, you know, you've had a bad day and you wake up and you're like, oh gosh, you know. I just love how, you know, Tyler played this of like, okay, great, now I've got to listen to my brother egg me on because of, you know, being here beside him. So I like that we immediately start the episode here.
Yeah, I did too. I love that for all of the same reasons, because it's like we already knew where this is going, but Clark clearly doesn't. And so when he wakes up and he sees Talrow just like standing over him, I was just like, this is perfect. And I absolutely love the way they end up mirroring this, like at the end of the episode. I love the way those scenes like play off with each other. I thought it was awesome because, I mean, it starts with Cal knocked out on the bed. He's trying to put pieces together. He has no idea what's going on. And then in the end, we have the roles reversed. So I love that. And we see this theme like throughout the whole episode. There were several scenes where things were mirrored. We see Cal mirrored, in particular in the cell. We see like him and Tal mirrored at several points throughout the episode. I think maybe even him and Bizarro. There's a lot of mirroring that goes on. I think it's foreshadowing. But that was the part of the direction that I actually really appreciated, was all of those little tidbits.
Well, this was my favorite chunk of the episode, was just the two of them in the cell together. Both times we were here. There's a lot of interesting moments that can come from their relationship. I mean, Clark doesn't want to, or Cal doesn't want to trust Talrow at all. He can't, because he's betrayed him so many times. But he still has that yearning to have a brother, an actual blood brother from his own world. And Talrow, for all intents and purposes, he really, really wants to be Cal's brother. He wants that brother relationship too, but he still wants his own personal gain. He's still focused on being whatever it is he's got going on. Like, so it's interesting. They both have the same yet opposite feelings. They want this brotherly relationship, but they both have their own agendas that are exact opposite, if that makes sense. And it's so it's very fascinating, and I love how they play off each other. And that's what I was saying in my opening monologue. This relationship is a nice slow burn. We don't see Talrow every episode, but every time we do, we get a good chunk of relationship building between them two. And I love it. That's great. And every time they bring him back, it's like, ooh, what else is going to happen this time? And they're just slowly burning that up. So I like it. This was the best part of the episode, for sure.
Yeah, I like the respect that's being built there. And to go to your point, I think so much of it is built on who raised them. Mm-hmm. Because we have Ma and Pa Kent, and then we have Talrow's dad, who's just, you know, punishing him and making him go. So you have that nature of their mother that's in both, but then you have this very different upbringing, and so it's just hard. But both of them want some type of relationship, and Talrow's slowly earning some respect from Kal-El.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually really enjoyed this moment, because I don't really want them to redeem him. Like, I don't want to see the Morgan Edge Talrow like redemption story. That I'm not super interested in that, because I don't think that's what makes his character interesting. I think the way he is makes him interesting. But I would like for them to come to some sort of common ground, some sort of area where he doesn't have to remain locked up, but where they can still team up when it makes sense, but also still like be adversaries in a way. Like that's kind of ultimately what I would like to see.
Yeah, I one of the things that I loved in the Batwoman comics, which they didn't get to walk out in the series, was the relationship between Batwoman and Alice. And there was some redemption there. There was some working with each other there. There was some things like that. And I can definitely see that type of dynamic being played out throughout this series with Tal-Rho and Kal-El.
Yeah, and it's just them. I'm kind of with what you're saying, Harley. Don't redeem Tal-Rho, because what's most interesting about him is that whole, can we trust him? Can we trust him this time? Can we trust him again? Like that, it just keeps us on the edge of whether he's going to turn or not, and that's what makes him fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Anderson knows that he's not going to have luck he with trying to get answers out of Superman.
No.
And so he goes directly after Tal-Rho and starts torturing him, so it forces Kal-El to, basically give in. And he gives, I like this, that he gives the coordinates to the Arctic fortress instead of the desert fortress. And so I like that. I love, I actually enjoyed this paranoia we've been seeing Anderson build up in the paranoia over the past few weeks of, he's getting more and more caught up in, Superman's not working with him. Well, they find Bizarro's armor there at the Arctic Fortress, and that's just the last straw. He's like, they've always been working together. It's always been a plan. They've been deceiving me, and it just throws him over the edge.
Oh my gosh, yes. This was definitely our first hint that at the very least he's paranoid, which is quite obvious, but definitely a little bit deranged, as we get to see, because he totally goes off the rails with his conspiracy theory. Part of it was right. Kal and Tal, that sounds weird to say together, they were clearly working together to get out of the prison. But not all of the reasons were there that Anderson thought. There was no conspiracy with Bizarro. Yes, they were sort of working with him, but Kal-El was, but not in the way that Anderson really thought. And so we definitely get to see him slowly come completely unhinged and borderline, in my opinion, on deranged by the end of the episode.
Which, to me, the military medical staff would catch that in all the psychological testing and all the mental therapy, everything they have to go through to even be allowed in the army, in the military. They would have picked up that he's got these behaviors in the background. And that's why I'm just like, no, he should not be in such a high position of power if he has this tendency to lose control so easily. And it just bugged me. This character I absolutely hated. Completely hated this character.
I just think, again, like I've said, I think he is a person who is risen too far, too fast.
And that's a good point, too, yeah.
They did confirm, like, he's been wearing the three stars, but when he put his hand on the handprint scanner, it did say General Anderson. So, like, he's gone from being a lieutenant to a general, and he's, it's just been too much too fast. He didn't have the same relationship with Superman that Sam did, and all of this just, it pushes him over the edge. And so we see him loading up on weapons and loading up on XK inhalers and, heading over to the fortress because he thinks he's the only person that can handle this. So it's just over the edge.
Yeah, and I for some reason I thought when General Lane shut that project down, I thought he got rid of everything. Didn't he promise Clark, I've gotten rid of everything, you don't have to worry anymore? Or did Clark say, no, keep it just in case? Wasn't there something along the storyline like that?
There's definitely a conversation, and I can't recall, but I think it's what you just said. I want to say he told him to keep it.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. Lane was going to get rid of it all because he realizes Superman is, nobody that they have to worry about, and it's part of his family. But then Clark said, no, better keep it just in case. You never know.
Right.
Because somebody had taken over Superman at that point, and that's what scared Clark. Clark was like, if that happens again.
Yeah.
Zod had.
Exactly.
Yeah, Zod, right.
Yeah, and I think the twist for me was the XK inhalers. I was not expecting to see those in his possession, let alone to have him using them intentionally. And it did not look as if that was his first rodeo, for the record. I don't know if we have this later in the notes, but him using them...
No, I don't think so.
It looked like he was pretty experienced. Like, he was very focused in on...
Yeah, and that's a question we brought up in the discussion thread during the evening, is where did those come from? And, the speculation is two things. Like, one, they could have taken it in at the beginning of the season when they took down the guy that was kidnapping, and he was a dealer in that way, or they could have just taken the stuff from the mines and made it into the inhalers, and Anderson's been testing it on himself. I don't know, but it just bugged me. I was like, okay, what? Okay, like they've already got inhalers.
Maybe they're the supplier, because we don't know who Candace's supplier is.
Okay,
and I also think
making more Supermen of America by supplying the kids of Smallville.
I mean,
that's what I think.
They already tried that earlier last season.
I have a feeling that the kids are not full-on super-powered. I think they have to use the inhalers, and then they get sent out on their mission.
Oh,
Tag and the other two that died. I wonder if they're not super-powered all the time, because as soon as they're taken away from living in Smallville around the XK, they might not be powered up anymore, so they have to use the inhalers to keep themselves going, and that's why the military has them.
I think Tag might still be, though, because he was involved in that explosion thing, and I feel like there was more of a awakening for him.
Yeah,
because they used the Eradicator and that whole machine thing.
There's a lot involved,
for him, but for the others, the two that died, I mean, that's distinctly possible. We didn't see how they got their powers, but we know how Tag got his.
And even if they had powers, it's just going to pump up the powers even more.
That's true.
If they take some, so I don't know. But so we get the guys breaking out of prison, and this was fun. Like Jess alluded to, it caught me off guard. I was like,
"Yep,
they're really going at it." And then until Clark, pulled his head up when they were checking his pulse, I was like, "Oh, they're doing the long con." I was like, "You got me! You got me!"
They got us too. Yeah, I completely bit.
I did too. I was like, "What is happening?"
Yeah. So they break out and they head over to the fortress, and this is where we started to get some information dropped, and we find out that Bizarro's version of Tal and Bizarro were like best brothers. They were extremely close to each other, and that is until Tal's wife tried to kill Bizarro. So I put this down. I said, who do we think the Bizarro wife of Tal is? And at first I was thinking Allie, but I changed my mind. So what are your thoughts there?
I actually think it's Lois. I feel like that would make sense if Tal is the beloved one on that shadow world. He's the good guy. Maybe the family was his and not Cal's. Just a thought.
Oh, then the picture you're talking about.
Because the face was crossed, like you couldn't see the guy there. Oh.
I have a completely different theory. I think Tal Rho on his Earth, on Bizarro World, has no powers at all, and his wife is the superwoman Lana.
Yeah.
Because on this world, like I'm just thinking opposite. So I think, yeah, he married Lana. Lana's super powered. She tried to kill him. We saw her show up at the prison to fight him.
That's
true.
So
I bet you that's been an ongoing battle. And I bet she's married to Lana.
That's where I came to earlier today, because I was thinking back. I'm like, she's wearing Tal-El's crest.
Yeah,
that's true.
As Superwoman, or the Superman of America, in that world. So she's wearing his crest, and so I was like, yeah, I could see that. So no confirmation out there yet, but we may get to see that down the road.
It's a good call.
Cool.
So this is where the action starts, and this was fun to see the three superpowered beings go after somebody hyped up on XK. So we have Anderson, very smart, sending in a kryptonite missile first to kind of blast them and weaken them some, and then he comes in with his weapons and things like that. And so I thought this was I'm interested to hear what Flash says about the fight choreography here, but I did enjoy the trading off of battle between the three of them against Anderson.
Yeah. I would say this is definitely kind of like one of the moments I was talking about where maybe they can come to an understanding, because like throughout all of this, you see them both save each other's lives in turn this episode. And again, like, I don't necessarily want Tal redeemed per se, but he's much more interesting, like, as a Kryptonian than as a captive. So I do hope there's just some way they can kind of get him out of that prison. I think what I disliked about all these scenes is, like, I loved all three of them kind of like working together and Bizarro stepping up and stepping in, but clearly Bizarro doesn't make it. And so I think we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is some of the small moments that I enjoyed about this episode. The fighting was well done. It looked cool. It was action-packed, and it's just what they were doing with Anderson that really pissed me off. Just what they did with his character is what I didn't like. But the fight scene itself was well done. It was good. There was a lot of good back and forth moments, and like you said, saving each other and jumping in front of the bullets and all this different stuff that was happening. And it's just, I think part of me was hoping that I would see all three of them beat up Anderson and take him out. That's what I was kind of hoping it would get to.
Oh, that would have been cool.
I was hoping. I was quite shocked when he took out Bizarro.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Tal-Ro takes 3 kryptonite bullets for his brother. Yeah. And so I like Mom kind of guiding Kal-El to, burn the kryptonite out. But the issue is, and we brought this back up, all that time under those red lamps. So, like, he got some energy from being out from under them, but he's been under them for so long, he doesn't recover as quickly, and he's being drained. And so Clark has to fly him to the sun to get, powered up. And I liked that visual image of him carrying Tal-Ro to the sun, and then you just see the flame, the energy around their faces there as they're charging up. I really like the cinematography on that.
Yeah, it was all beautiful for sure. Like and there was that moment when he had to pick up Tal-Ro and he's flying away. He looks back because he knows that this is my decision. I have to save Tal-Ro, or I got to turn around and save Bizarro. Yep. He looks back, and you could see that it weighed on him in that moment. Like,
oh yeah,
one of them's going to die. What do I do here? And he chooses Tal-Ro. Tal-Ro just jumped in front of him to save him from the kryptonite bullets, so he has to pay that back to his actual legit brother, not his other evil doppelganger. His brother is the one that he has to save. And so it is a neat moment. And like I said, I think the timing of this moment would have been way more impactful if it had taken us all season to get to this point. And like I said, they built these relationships up. There's a lot more weight. Because even though I'm enjoying Cal and Tal and what they're working on, it still wasn't heavy enough for me to understand the sacrifice and for me to really feel a lot. Because I think this could have been such an emotionally charged scene and could even have brought tears if we had saw more of this relationship developing and see Clark and Bizarro building a trusting bond too, where they've worked together with Mama Lar there, and now it's like, okay, we're losing Bizarro. No, like he could have been something. So it's just timing that bugged me, but the beauty of the scene was there. It looked great. It was, and that's where I'll give Miss Henstridge some credit. She made it look good. She got the cinematography to work properly, and the special effects department. Everything looked great. It's just could have been way more emotionally powerful if it was timed differently.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair point.
Yeah, definitely. And we do see the outcome of the battle here of Anderson being, going after Bizarro and Bizarro having the upper hand originally until he gets the XK, and that just weakens him. And Anderson's just like, he must have had every pocket on his,
right?
outfit, his uniform full of XK inhalers, because he's just pulling them out of everywhere and then cracking them open to try to weaken Bizarro here.
Which, it's still a little bit strange, because does Anderson know that much? Like, does he know that XK weakens Bizarro? Does he know? Like, it just seemed like he had all the answers, and all of a sudden
he saw what happened.
He was inhaling the gas or getting the gas, and he saw that the kryptonite bullet, Bizarro just pushes it in.
That was a cool moment.
Strength. So if he can kind of deduct that, like, if XK is going to do the opposite to him, if that's the case, if it hypes up, so. But,
I guess he's not a dummy. Yeah, he could deduce that for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like something happened during that battle where some was accidentally discharged, and it went into Bizarro's face, and he freaked out. And Anderson, he's a soldier, and he very quickly picked up on that opportunity, because I feel like,
weakness,
you're very attuned to your enemy's weakness. You have to gain the upper hand or you won't survive. I mean, that's literally his military training in action. So he definitely noticed that opportunity, and like Jeff said, he's pulling it out of pocket after pocket. And I'm like, how loaded up is he on that? Like, how long do these effects really take place? I mean, clearly he knows how much he needs. I think he's clearly calculated, okay, I could potentially be battling them for this amount of time, so I need this many inhalers, so I'm just going to double that or whatever. I don't know. He had just tons of that stuff on him, which is ultimately what kills Bizarro in the end, which we were all really disappointed by. I mean, it's a very impactful scene, especially when, Cal gets down there and notices what happens. But I like the character, and I'm with you guys. I wanted to see more.
Yeah, it's a whole new version of Bizarro that we didn't get a chance to really get to know yet. But two points that you said, there was a moment, I think during their fight, one of the vials breaks by accident.
Yeah.
And the puff of smoke goes in Bizarro's face, and he's kind of and he's trying to get away from it, and that's the moment Anderson probably realizes,
and then he just starts discharging them in his face.
Yeah. So, that was the one point. Now I forget what the other one I was going to say. Say your whole line again, Harley, because I forget the other thing I wanted to.
Edit this in post, because I have no idea what I just said.
No idea why. But if it comes to me, I'll say
it was just really hard seeing him crack Bizarro's neck there, and
he
just
choked him out too, I think.
Yeah, it was choking him, and then you like if you have the closed captioning on, it says bones break. He actually snapped his neck. He was choking him out, but he was actually snapped his neck too.
At first, I thought he just made him pass out. So I waited for Clark's confirmation when he said Bizarro is dead, because I was like, is he really dead? Or did he just have like a sleeper hold on him and he's going to like capture him and bring him back to the DoD? And then, we find out this takes a different storyline where he goes rogue. So.
Right. The thing that I wanted to say is that we've never gotten the information that XK is stackable. So every time he injects a new one, does it stack on top of the previous one so he gets exponentially stronger? That's what we don't have that information. So to me, it was weird that he just kept inhaling. And it's like, well, I don't know if that works. Is it stackable? I don't know.
Well, that's why I thought it was maybe for Anderson more of like a time thing. But for Bizarro, it's definitely stackable because that's his kryptonite.
Yeah.
So the more that he discharged into Bizarro's face, the weaker he got, and that allowed him to, like, apparently snap his neck. Until Cal confirmed he was dead, I really thought they put him in a sleeper hold and were going to capture him and take him back to the DoD until this just takes a completely different direction.
Right.
Yeah.
But is it stackable for Anderson? Did he get more stronger?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely possible because we see him use heat vision and strength. So it could be that...
That's true. And we had only ever seen John get more than one power, and we assumed it was because his Kryptonian DNA, but that may not be the case.
Yeah, and it could be that, like, he's more focused, so he's... one shot, like, he's going to use it as those beams. And then the next shot, he's going to kind of focus, I need strength. So he's more disciplined, and he's been training, the Superman of America so that he can, he knows that, okay, I've got to focus on, I don't know.
Possible.
But it could be stackable. Could be I don't know.
And here's another thing, underlying issue for me that I'm just not sure I'm liking this writing in the storyline is Superman is Superman. There's nobody else like him. He's got all these powers and abilities. I always complain that he's too godlike, he's too powerful. But it's Superman. And just the fact that you created something that anybody can become Superman, even if just for a few moments, I don't know if I like that. Like, inhale, you're just a regular human. There's nothing special about you. Take a quick puff of this stuff and suddenly you have Superman's abilities. That, to me, is just, it's a little too easy. Like, why is it so easy to access Superman's abilities when you're not even Kryptonian? I'm just having trouble accepting all of that. It's bugging me a little bit. It's like, it really should be only Kryptonians that are developing that, like, because they're not from this world. So it's just weird that a human using an inhaled rock can become Kryptonian-like on. So I don't know. It's just I'm not accepting it. I've been thinking about it more and more and more as the season's gone on, and I don't like the story angle. It doesn't actually make any real sense writing-wise. That any regular human can just become Superman by sucking some stuff, and there you are. You're Superman for a day. It's kind of again. It really takes away from Superman being special.
It does, yeah. I'm still trying to remember. We probably need to go back and watch, but how. I mean, Tag was essentially infused with XK, and that's what gave him his powers, but his are permanent. So maybe it was because he went through that different process that he gets to keep his, like, permanently, whereas others, it's only temporary. But he has 0 Kryptonian DNA. It's the XK that brought out the powers in him.
Along with the Eradicator.
But he doesn't have a Kryptonian consciousness embedded in him either. It was just he went through that process with that, like, machine and all of that stuff. I don't know. It's just a little confusing.
It's just strange to me. I don't know. Like, what if a human got on a spaceship and flew to Krypton? Would they suddenly be Superman because, hey, now we're underneath a red sun? Whoa, I feel strong, because that's the reverse of Superman. He's only powerful because of the yellow sun here. On his own planet, Kryptonians are regular humanoids. There's no powers at all.
And, the gravity is different there, too. It's a stronger gravity on Krypton, so...
Yeah, so I guess if we went there, we'd fall flat and wouldn't be able to get up.
We would struggle for a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I'm just saying, I don't like this idea of humans being able to just get Superman's powers by an injection. It's too easy, and it's too, it's not good writing. It really isn't. Otherwise, I'd be injecting stuff all the time if I could get powers like that. Like it's
Well, I mean,
I want to be the Flash. Give me an inhaler. Great, I can run to Europe in a second. Here I go.
I mean, that's why people get addicted to drugs. It's not quite that extreme, but they get enough of that high. Yeah.
It just takes away from the whole original idea of why superheroes are individuals, why they're so unique, why their stories are so great, because they're superheroes. They're one of a kind. They have super abilities that nobody else has. And when you write in an element that allows anybody to get it, it just, I mean, we've seen that on The Flash. Every show seems to be doing that our superheroes are just easily replicatable. Replicated by a drug, by a scientific experiment, by whatever. And it's just like, you're taking away the mystic wonderment of what it takes to be a superhero, why they are super.
Yes, but it does solve your problem of Superman being too overpowered.
It does in some way, but it does. I think they could have just find ways to not, like I said, look how easy it is to beat him. Oh, here's some red light. Okay, he's weaker now. We can fight him. What? Come on! Like that just weakens Superman as a whole. Like, considering when John Henry first went at him, he's firing missiles of explosive power of red light. Yes, that is something that would be more impactful to weaken Superman. Not just, here's a red light bulb. Oh, great, it's working. Like they've even dumbed that down some,
Yeah. Well, let's move on.
Anyway.
So, in the end, Kal-El takes his brother back to the jail cell, and looks like Hardcastle frees him, Kal-El, and they've got a bolo out on Anderson. But I do like the scene here between the two brothers, and Tal Robe kind of bringing it back to him, saying, you're just gonna trust them again, aren't you? So, kind of leaving that. But I did like him wanting to apologize, to Jordan and for what he did. So I like that, and Clark's little bit of hope there for him that maybe you'll get to tell him yourself. So
yeah,
it's good scenes. Like I like their scenes together, and it just ties into what I said earlier that Kal and Tal, they have this interesting brotherly bond that they're building. Like, I don't think Clark wants to keep him in prison. In his heart, he doesn't want him there. But his mind is at least winning out right now. The smart thing to do is to keep him there because I can't trust him.
Yes, which is where I keep going to with my common ground theory. He's more interesting not in that prison, but they need to come to a common ground for him to be free. Right. But I don't want him redeemed per se. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay. I agree.
He's a good foil. We need him to remain that.
Yeah. So here's a little surprise, because Clark had been telling Anderson at the start of this episode to look into Allie, and he has the pendant evidently and takes it to Allie. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is not gonna go well. This is not good at all.
No, this is where I'm like, seriously, like, you bring it right to her. Come on, man. Like, did you not do enough digging? I don't know. This is where I'm kind of like leaning on my season 1 stuff, because we're not even halfway through this season and Allie already has the pendant. So This is where I fall back in season 1, because I absolutely love the fast-paced writing. I love that I have no idea where this is going, like none whatsoever. And she's got the pendant halfway through. So there's got to be just like so much more to come, and so much that we can see, just like we did in season 1, because we literally said these same things early on in season 1. what? How did we already get this reveal from Morgan Edge? What are they going to do with this? And then they blow our minds with the rest of the season. So I think that that's actually exactly what's going to happen. I think that this was not the big reveal that we think it is. This is, yes, it's the main story, but I think there's just so much more to come that I have no idea. Like, I have no idea where they're going, and I actually kind of love it. Just like in season 1, I'm absolutely trusting in them. So,
and that's what they're doing again. You think this is the big storyline that's going to go all the way through, and no, they're going to pull the wool over our eyes, or the rug out from under our feet, or the tablecloth from under all the plates, and and it's on to the next story. It's on to the next story. Like, there might be 3 main stories. Like, it's like the season split into thirds, and where they're going to just do it again to us.
Yeah, the old Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. pods. They don't feel quite so distinct. But,
All right, so let's talk about Lois, because Lois is just getting hit on all sides this episode. She's just having a rough day with her husband being in prison. She's finding out her son's on drugs and maybe dealing. She's just not having a good day at all. And it's just, I mean, you could just see it weighing on her and how she's going through this episode. So
for sure. This was definitely a tough mom episode for Lois, which I really sympathized with. I feel like pretty much any mother is going to sympathize with her storyline. Like, it's really, really hard, I feel like, when, like, your fear and your disappointment in your children are kind of all realized at the same time. And again, I don't have teenagers, so I will preface that with I don't fully understand what this is like yet. But I do understand when, like, all of your, like, fear and disappointment and trying to figure out what to do and, like, your insecurities and just trying to get your kid to do the right thing is just so hard. It just comes out as, like, being mad. And, like, in her situation, it's definitely, like, rightfully so. But I will say it can be very hard to dial that back to get to the root of the problem, because there is always more to the story. Always. But the problem is that, like, the kids leave out the details. You don't know the right questions to ask because you've never been in this situation. And it's just, you're trying to, like, figure everything out. And, like, it's just really difficult. Because, like, your kids think they're going to get in less trouble by leaving out the details, right? And you just want, like, all of the information so you can make the decision for them, but they don't learn that way. And it's just, I just really felt for Lois. I really did, because I really sympathized with their situation.
Yeah, I think the writers just like making Bitsy mad because she plays mad so well.
She does.
They're like, we need her to have a rage again this episode. Yeah. What can we do? What can we do? All right, here it is. And she just... when she gets mad, she controls the scene. Holy.
Yeah, I mean, she's yelling at her dad, trying to get him to get, some way to get Clark out. And, she's, just raging at John and trying to talk some sense into him, and even Jordan, too. She just
walks in at the wrong time.
When he comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, what? Oh, okay.
Knew? What do you mean yesterday?
Yeah. But I do like the fact that she sees that she needs some outside perspective, and so she goes to Lana to ask her for some advice, because she knows she's dealt with some hard situations with her kids. And so she knows that she can have somebody she can bounce ideas off of and get some good advice from.
We're going to hear this later because it's my favorite scene. Also, I would just like to say that Lois is my spirit animal. Like, of all of the people in this show, I clearly identify with her the most. So.
Well, of course, I mean, there really isn't any other motherly characters in a similar situation.
Yeah.
You, so you're very connecting much to her. Yeah, and this stuff, I mean, I think I said a lot about this stuff in my opening monologue. I didn't like the John thing with the drugs, and it was funny when Jordan walks in and he just immediately gets in trouble without even knowing what the heck's going on. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, there's just a lot that was happening all at once here. Just a lot of things, and then Lana going to Alana for advice. It's one of those should say. Yeah, so we'll get to that, like you said, in your favorite scenes, and maybe we can talk a little bit more about it. But I think I said enough about all of this stuff in my opening monologue. So let's move on.
Okay.
Yeah. I liked how, Lois takes that advice and she comes to John and tries that different tack of listening and really opening up.
Yeah.
And, he kind of shares why he did it. And, being everybody's great at something in the family, and he just kind of wanted to be great. But he's still just not giving up. He's not going to give Candace up, and that's just, even though it means expulsion and all that kind of stuff, he's just not giving it up, and that's just, you just want to smack him sometimes.
Yeah,
So.
parenting is hard, and I don't even have teenagers yet. Honestly, I really don't know what I would do in this situation. I feel like, and I mean like me personally, right? Not like Lois as the mom. I mean like me personally, if I were John, I feel like most kids would want to try and save their own skin, right? But kind of maybe not. So like, let's think about it this way. I get that he wants to protect his girlfriend, but she's the one who's like potentially ruining his life instead of her own, because she knows the risks of dealing. John is very much underestimating them, but I also feel like, and this may come back in his section, where we get into this a little bit more, but I also feel like he is going to have some guilt if he gives her up. And I know I have this later in the notes, so I don't want to like say more on that, but it's kind of like, how do you handle all of this, right? Like, I don't know, like what would you do with that? I may even pose this question later, so I may be prematurely jumping into John's storyline, but here we are.
Well,
I mean, the
nice thing about this is that Lana gives Lois some good advice about just sit there and listen. That's what you need to do, is just listen. And Lois took that to heart and goes back in and says, okay, let's start again. Tell me what's going on. Because all she got was the facts from the teacher or the police or whatever, and she just jumped on Jonathan without even hearing his side of the story. So, yeah, parenting is hard, but it's also that's communication 101. Always get the other side of the story before you react. I mean, we dealt with that at my last job that I just left. We were pissed off with the supervisors all the time because someone would complain and they would go and give whoever they're complaining about complete heck without finding out, well, maybe there's another side of the story. I shouldn't be punishing this person until I know their side first. And this bugs me in life. Always listen to both sides before you make a decision or jump to conclusions.
But what happens when you can't trust the other side's story? That's what I'm up against with a 5-year-old. Don't know if what she's saying is actually true. Yeah. Or if she's just saying it's true because she knows she won't get in trouble for it.
Yes.
Anyways, those are my struggles.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, John, it's rough because, like, we see him at the end of the last episode, and it seems like he has rethought everything, and he wants to swear off the XK, but, Candace is like, she's not going to give that up because, one, it's making her money, and two, it's clout that, she's with the quarterback now, being the head cheerleader and that kind of stuff. But then she gets forced into like, okay, I'm going to get caught with all this, and because of who I am and my background, I'm going to get punished. And like, he takes the stuff on, and I'm like, slapping my head, going, okay.
I know, and this is where we Right? It totally
makes
does.
you stupid.
It does. No, it totally does.
Sometimes.
So this is where we're going to get into, I think I've already gotten into this, but let's get into it a little bit more. So, all right, first point. He does the noble thing, tries to protect her. But I don't know why. This is one of the parts of the episode that bothered me. I don't know why he thought the drug dogs would leave him alone. Dogs could care less if he's a good kid. They're just spelling out the drugs. So, like, this actually really did bother me in the beginning of the episode when he says that. He's like, oh, it's fine. I'm a good kid. They won't even check me. I'm like, there are dogs in the hallway. Dogs don't know your behavior. Dogs could give a crap whether you're a good kid. They're just sniffing for drugs. That's literally what they're trained for. So.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, in me knowing things about law enforcement and things like that, I'm like, they've already trained dogs to sniff out X-ray.
But yes, yes.
Okay. I'm like, I know it takes a lot of training, a lot of time to get the, and a lot of reward and, like, but I'm like, they've already trained dogs to sniff out XK?
Hand wavy.
Okay, sure. Whatever. Hand wavy!
See, I want to wave this entire sequence away. There's nothing you guys can say to make this moment any better for me. They have not sold us on this relationship. We know nothing about Candace other than the girlfriend that shows up once every 5 episodes. Like, there's nothing built on this relationship. So for me to buy in that Jonathan cares so deeply about her that he would risk his life for her is ridiculous to me. I can't buy it. It was awful, absolutely awful, and it just made him look that much more stupid. Because to us, it's just a flirting, fleeting thing. He sees this girl, they kiss once in a while. Like, there's no relationship. There's nothing built up. If this had happened between Sarah and Jordan, then it would have been impactful. Sarah pushes drugs onto Jordan, and he's like, "Yes, I got to protect you, Sarah. I'll do it." Well, we've had a whole season of that relationship, so hello, now it's got some impact to it. But this one, absolutely nothing. It's just empty. And it made me swing to your guys' side of hating this story for Jonathan all of a sudden. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed in the extended version that they had a quick scene when Lois is coming back home right before she talks to John, that they had an extended scene where Jordan apologizes to her, and he tells her, like, John's not dealing, but I don't know who, he just won't give it up. So I like that little point of him, coming and standing up a little bit for his brother, but also apologizing to his mom too. So I like that little extended scene.
Is not everybody getting those scenes now? Like, when it's on regular cable TV, is it still cutting stuff out?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't do it every episode, but it's, maybe every other stuff like that. So you would see it on, if you're watching on the CW's website, or if you you bought a copy, that kind of stuff, then it's in there, but it's not in the aired version. But like I said, they don't do that with everything, and it's not as much as last season, because last season when especially with Stargirl, when they were doing stuff, because Stargirl was airing first on HBO Max before it aired on the CW, they were doing more stuff because they weren't cutting stuff out for commercials. But it's not quite as much this year.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. No, I actually really like this scene. I didn't realize it was an extended scene. I didn't get a chance to watch it live, so I just watched the version off of the app instead of watching the version like that I had recorded, just because I was like, well, may as well get my time codes right. So I did see this one, and I thought it added a lot, so I was surprised it was an extended scene.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically, the sheriff, I guess because it's so new, is going to let John off. But the school is understandably pulling a hard line, and they're expelling him unless he gives up his source. And being working in a school, I totally understand that they're trying to clamp down on this and that kind of stuff. And so this was rough, but especially the scene at the end when Clark comes in and talks with John about what he's doing and the consequences of it. And after the day that Clark's just had coming in, and it was just rough.
Yeah,
so.
No, I agree. Like, this is tough, and this is what I started to talk about. Like, do you ruin your own life, or do you ruin someone else's life? And how do you weigh that risk? Because you really can't win. You either live with the choice you made, you screw up your future, or you live with the guilt of destroying someone else's life to save your own skin. So, I mean, like, what would you do here? I really honestly don't know what I would do if I were put in this situation, because I feel like it's really hard to say what is truly the right thing. Do you destroy your life when you're innocent, or do you destroy someone else's life just to save your own skin and then live with that guilt? Like, I honestly don't know which is worse. It's a catch-22. Like, I know that's so cliche, but it really is. I mean, like, what makes you a better person? I don't know. Being a martyr? I don't know. Does that really make you a better person? But can you live with the guilt if you turn this person in just to save yourself? I don't know. What would you guys do?
Here's the answer. You turn that Candace in. Like, she obviously doesn't care about you. She's pushing you to take the fall for her. That tells you right there, you don't give a damn about me, girl. So why should I do this for you? Push her back. Let her take the fall for it. She's been dealing to tons of people and making the money off it. She's obviously not a good girl. You shouldn't be dating her anyway, because she's a drug dealer. Like, it just I can't buy into it. It just does. It's just not right, and she's just not a good person. Like, what? Well, look at the way she's only with him because he's the potential quarterback of the team. Then she pushes drugs on him to make him the best on the team, and now it makes her look better because I'm the star cheerleader. I get to be the star quarterback. Like, everything about her is shallow, and I wish Jonathan would open his eyes and realize that and not be with her. And this whole thing, like, it's just don't take the fall. She's pushing it on him. Don't take the fall for her. Like, that's a red flag right there.
And the thing about it is, he has to realize too is, even if he doesn't give her up, other people may, to save their butts, because like Flash said, she's been dealing to other people, and when push comes to shove, they're going to give her up. So, it's rough, but I would have to. I would have to give her up, but that's just me. So
it's a situation like this, your life or theirs, because of drugs. It's not like she's going to die. You, in a back-ended roundabout way, you not taking the fall for her, so she gets caught and has to deal with it. That you're actually helping her. You're getting her out of being a drug pusher, and you're going to change her life for the better, because she's eventually going to have to get out of it. And so, I mean, I know you can't maybe think of that in the heat of the moment when the cops are coming down the hallway and all that's happening. You got stupid teenage emotions going on, but, he needs to come clean and give her up. That's the only way out of this.
All right.
All right, so let's close out this episode by talking about the Cushings. And so Sarah's helping her mom pack up all of Kyle's stuff. And honestly, it was hard seeing them both going through this, and just especially Lana looking through Kyle's sobriety chips, and just thinking about the history there, and just this dynamic between the two of them of just the support that they have, and Lana not wanting to have to put her kids through this, but knowing she's going to have to. I just really appreciate the dynamic and the relationship between Sarah and Lana.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, these scenes were like hard to watch, but they felt very real. So I guess I was kind of glad they included them so that we had a little bit of that, I don't know, like real life commentary. Like, you know what I mean? I just feel like it made the whole situation and like the whole episode the whole situation makes the episode and the arc in the season it kind of like grounds everything for the series. And we've talked a lot about the realism in the show and the way that everything is kind of tying back to real life struggles. And so I felt like that really highlighted it this episode for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was tough to watch. I mean,
It's tough.
My parents got divorced when I was 7, so I know that situation of being in it. And you got feelings and you don't understand stuff, but life goes on. You just gotta keep on trucking.
Yeah.
And it's rough too because, you know, in the midst of this, Lana's still trying to run a mayor campaign, and Dean's pushing out, you know, papers that's got, you know, all about family values and basically calling her out. And, you know, Lana goes to Lois, and, you know, there's basically nothing that she can do money-wise to compete with the ads. And, you know, Lois says, you know, use your brain and confront him. And so I once again, this was early on the episode, but I like the two of them, you know, giving each other advice.
Yep, for sure. I love it when these two team up. Like, I mean, I would love to see Lois ultimately like pitch in and help Lana with her campaign, because her and Kyle aren't really talking now, and that's kind of like what he was doing. He was helping out with the campaign, so I really want to see Lois step into that role, for sure. I would like to see more of that. I love the two of them teaming up. It just makes me happy.
Well, it's a fairly new friendship. I mean,
Yeah.
Lana is Clark's friend from childhood, so Lois is just getting to know her. So we're watching their friendship development. It's nice.
Yeah. And, you know, so she takes the advice and she goes to Dean's rally here and, you know, basically says, yeah, I'm still in this. I'm going to debate you and we'll let the people decide. But, you know, I love the jab of, you know, here it is. You're spouting, you know, family values and talking about how the community's family, and you're kicking me while I'm down.
I know, right? So, I love that she just calls him out. I was very happy for this. I really wanted her to just take him down. I really want her to just take him down. I will be very happy when she's mayor of Smallville. Like, yes, she's showing this town who he really is, and it has been a long time coming. Take him out and step up. That's what I say.
Well, again, the scene was cool. I loved how because he's sitting there doing his spiel to the people that are on his side, and they're all like, yeah, nodding their heads, and then she comes in and rips one into him and makes him look like the fool. And the guys that were just nodding to him were all going, huh, yeah, she's right. And you saw that she changed half of the crowd just in her little dig to him. And then she walked out. I was like, now that was a good moment.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, you know, Jordan wants to talk with her, and she just doesn't feel like he can relate because, you know, she doesn't know it, but he's got Superman as his dad. But I mean, she sees that relationship there and knows that she just really doesn't feel like that she can talk to him. And her mom says, well, there's somebody that you can talk to. And we talked about this. We all thought it was going to be Natalie, but it ended up being Aubrey from camp. And yeah, she apologizes, and they reestablish a relationship here. So as far as friendship, and not a romantic relationship.
I really wasn't expecting this turn of events, as it seems none of us were. I really never thought we'd hear about Aubrey again. I mean, I thought the whole point of her was just to be the camp fling and she would be off screen. But here we are. She's cast, she has a role, and we meet her. So I'm just hoping that we don't have love triangle.
Yeah, here.
Form of water.
I could have been playing it all episode, but that's all I have to say. Just a missed opportunity. We got far better characters with Natalie and John Henry, and we're not even getting them on our show right now. This is just absolutely out of left field. That is not appreciated. I don't care about Aubrey. I don't want her storyline here. I don't want any of this here. It's ridiculous. I hated the whole thing of Sarah and Jordan struggling with this secret and well, it's no, don't want it. Get it off this show.
All I gotta say is we'll get to see the Irons next episode.
Yay!
But I'm gonna save a lot of this, some of my thoughts, but we can talk about it here too. But this was my favorite scene because I liked the talk that Aubrey actually gives to her. She's a child of divorce, and she talks with Sarah about, you can stand up for your mom, but, you need to do stuff for you. You need to choose if you want to talk with your dad, you need to do that without, thinking it's betraying your mom. And I did enjoy it for the advice that was given.
Yeah, no, I kind of did too. Like, I imagine, because I'm not a child of divorce, so I have no idea what this is like, to be honest. But I imagine that the hardest thing about it, just from knowing friends that have, been part of a divorced family, is just that the children feel like they have to take sides, and I hate that. And so I think what I really appreciate about this situation is that the parents aren't necessarily forcing them to, which I do feel like happens very often in these types of situations where the parents just hate each other so much, like they honestly can't stand to see the kids have a relationship with the other spouse, and they usually try to sabotage it. And I think that is the saddest thing. So I thought this was super mature advice coming from Aubrey, and I'm really glad that Sarah actually took it, because she has to sort out how she feels for herself, and I feel like she can only do that while speaking with both of her parents. She can stand up for her mom and still have a relationship with her dad. It doesn't have to be one-sided. It doesn't have to be, well, I've taken mom's side, so I have to hate you. I'm sure her feelings are very conflicted and very complicated right now, but that doesn't mean that she can't talk to her dad about it, or at least speak her mind. So that's kind of how I feel.
It's different with every family. Every situation is different.
Yeah, it is.
I didn't have to choose sides. I had no choice. My parents split, and I was with my mom. That was it. My dad took off, wanted to do his own thing. He didn't want me, so I had no choice. I didn't get to pick or have to worry about fighting for it or whatever. Nobody was playing off each other. The way it was for me, if I was with my dad and I tried to say something about my mom, he'd be like, "No, I don't want to hear it. We're not together anymore. Don't talk about your mom." Okay. Never happened again. Same thing with my mom's side. She didn't care what to hear about my dad. So that's the way it was. And so I think it's different with every single family. And some people can get along and be reasonable with each other for the betterment of the kids' upbringing. But you got a divorce. You already screwed it up. There's nothing you can do to make it easier, make it better.
That's true.
It's a shame nowadays that relationships are treated like throwaway trash way too easily these days. People don't get together for the right reasons, and they don't stay committed to each other. You're getting together for the wrong reasons, and that's why they're not lasting. So,
yeah, it's just hard. I just feel bad for when kids get stuck in the middle, because they always feel like it's their fault, like they should have done something better, but it's not. It's never their fault.
Sometimes, yep.
Right.
Yeah, I never felt that. I never felt it was my fault or anything. I just didn't understand.
That's good. A lot of kids do. I have many friends that have expressed those sentiments.
Yeah. And how Sarah feels about it is going to be totally different than how Sophie feels about it, because of the age difference and, that kind of stuff. So, as hard as it is, I'm glad the show is looking at topics that we have to deal with in everyday life and looking at it in good ways and in ways that are real. So Sarah ends up deciding to talk to her dad, and we kind of leave that of them meeting to talk. So it was a good way to finish it out for them.
I thought so too. I'm curious as to what was said, so I don't know if we'll see any insight there.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll pick up there, or if that was just the kind of overture, and we'll see something later on.
That scene I really liked because, yes, Kyle's the one that did the cheating, but you know how bad he is hurting. So to come out of the store, picking up his supplies for his new apartment, wherever he's staying, to see his daughter waiting there for him and wanting to talk to him, you could see it just completely lit up his day, melted his heart, whatever, however you want to describe it. That was a really strong emotional beat. And I'll give total props to the actor playing Kyle, because you could see it hit him hard. My kid came to see me. Holy.
Yeah, it was a good scene. I liked it.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of good scenes, how's that for a transition? We got some good ones coming up into our favorite scenes. Let's do those.
Shape out and eagle!
Harley is going first this week.
I am, and I called this scene, which I've already alluded to, a mom's only job.
Hey, I am sorry to show up out of nowhere, and I know how much you're going through right now, but I really just need to talk.
Of course. Do you really think Jonathan was selling XK?
He claims it wasn't his, but who knows if he's telling the truth. He didn't even admit he was using it until his brother outed him.
It's awful. But what did Clark say?
He doesn't know. I'm afraid that when he finds out, he's never going to forgive him. How did I miss this? I had no idea this was going on.
You cannot blame yourself. Okay, kids that age are pretty good at keeping secrets from their parents.
I know. I just didn't know the boys had these kinds of secrets. Why would he do something like that?
You know, after Sarah's suicide attempt, I kept wanting her to tell me why she did it, because that's what I needed to hear to make myself feel better. But when we did finally talk about it, I realized that the best thing I could do was just listen. Even if the answer wasn't what I wanted to hear. It let her know that I was there for her no matter what. And sometimes, that's the only job as a mom. To be there for your kid when they don't have anyone else.
I think that Mayor Dean made a big mistake bringing up family values.
I'm pretty sure I still have a husband that cheated on me.
But you are a great mom. And accusing a good mom of being a bad one is terrible politics.
You're right. I just need to call him out. Take the fight to him.
There you go.
I just love this scene. It just felt very real, and I felt like the advice from Lana to Lois was very good.
Mm-hmm.
Just a nice
Definitely.
scene on the couch. Instead of a porch scene, we got a couch scene.
Yep.
Yeah.
Couches and benches are my thing, apparently.
You guys are developing patterns.
Yes.
All right, X-Force.
I called this one Advice with a Side of Fries. So let's take a listen.
So I know that I shouldn't have ghosted you after camp. I get it. You have a boyfriend and you didn't want to make it all weird.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't rude. I just wanted to say I'm sorry.
Okay. Well then, apology accepted. But that's not the only reason why you texted me.
Well, my life is kind of falling apart. My
Dad cheated on my mom, and I feel like you're the only person who might understand.
Wow. Okay. Well, child of divorce, to the rescue. Just so you know, I'm like totally here for you, but can we please order some fries? Because I'm literally starving.
I don't know. He just won't stop calling.
Do you want to talk to him?
No. Kind of. I mean, it just doesn't seem fair to my mom.
But it's not about her. It's about you. Look, after my parents split, I froze my dad out for like almost an entire year. And you know what? It didn't fix their marriage. It didn't make me feel any better. And if anything, it just made me angry and mean.
You? Mean?
I got into like 2 fights that year. Like, actually tripped my front tooth. It was so stupid.
That's insane.
Right. So maybe spare your teeth, and if you want to see your dad, see your dad.
You're right. You're awesome.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
Shut up.
Oh, it's also later than I thought, so I should probably get going.
I got it. Okay. I was wondering, maybe we could be friends again?
I was hoping you'd say that.
Yeah. Like I said, very good scene. I like the advice in there, so it was good, and I'm
You guys
glad
both picked
Sarah
like
got some
super
good advice
mellow,
there.
quiet scenes this week.
Yeah.
I'm going to come and mess it all up with a scene that I called, "Oh Brother, Who Art Thou?"
Tal claims the two of you escaped a prison and have joined forces.
I had no other choice.
It was glorious, Mother. 2 sons of Krypton vanquishing their human oppressors. You'd have been proud. It's fascinating. He's like some warped version of you.
He knows me so.
And he babbles like an idiot.
His words flow backwards. Unless...
This man betrayed my family. Sounds familiar?
Sure, there's more to it than that. Were we always at odds on your world?
No. We were inseparable. The closest of brothers.
What drove us apart? Greed? Power?
Your wife tried to kill me.
My wife? My wife.
And that's what...
I'm now seeing how that's Lana.
Yeah, you think so? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Now I'm totally on board with that.
And that's why I picked it. It's just a good info dump there, and I love Tal Rose, just his little digs at Cal, and he speaks gibberish, and whatever. Just fun scene.
He's a great character. He is. I just love his dry sarcasm, his dry British humor. That's why I want more of him. Yeah. So I want them to come to a common ground so I can have more.
Yeah. Common ground with tension.
Yes, exactly. Like we need this at odds, that quippy humor. Love it. Spot on. Need more.
Well, speaking of needing more, boy, I'm finding transitional points tonight. We're going to talk about Patreon for a moment to get you guys involved in supporting the show, because we're bringing you lots of content, lots of bonus content, and it's a lot of fun. And if you would like to get in on that bandwagon, this is what you have to do.
If you'd like to support our podcast, you can do so at our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/tomorrowslegends.
It's feedback, your time to speak up. Believe it or not, what you think and you say means a lot to us. But why should we sit here and wait if you won't hurry up? So feedback, or simply shut up.
Which is exactly what we don't want you to do. Keep sending in the feedback like this fine fella, Comic Geek Kev. He says, "Whoa, I did not see that coming." Anderson takes out Bizarro, and before we get to hear anyone actually call him Bizarro. The show continues to be the best of the CW DC shows and possibly the best show on television. And believe me when I say a lot of television. The Boys. One of the things I love about this show is the way the Kents are actually parents even though they live a completely abnormal life. Performances make it clear this family loves each other, but are generally not afraid to let each other have it when it's necessary. Lois's fight with John was great. The writing, the performances, everything. Same with John and Clark. You can feel the disappointment coming from them, and when Clark left and John started to cry. Dang. Yeah, that's actually a moment I wanted to bring up. I think that scene was almost more intense for me than when Lois was talking to him. Because we don't see Clark come in and be disappointed in his sons much. He was always kind of the one defending them, and after Lois gives them heck, he just kind of comes in and says, just chill. Like he's kind of like the fun dad. So when he came in there and gave him heck and then Jonathan breaking down and crying, that hurt me. That really got to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was powerful.
Very.
Yeah. Few things are worse as a kid than to know that you've disappointed your parents. Now imagine your father is Superman. Almost makes me feel sorry for John. Almost, but not quite. Are they both wearing gray hoodies for a reason? I only noticed on the rewatch. Just interesting. And I think Jordan should be able to figure out who was giving John the K. How many people is he going to try to cover for so hard? What? How many people is he going to try to cover for so hard?
Saying there's really only one if you think about it, his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I see what you mean. Glad to hear John openly admit that he's basically jealous, probably not the right word, of his family, that he feels less than. That happens in good old-fashioned non-superhero families, too. The Cushings, I'm really liking that they are keeping a strong connection between the Cushings and the Kents. Lana going to Lois, Jordan and Sarah, Lois going to Lana, and last episode, Clark going to Lana. I believe that Lois is urging. And I'm probably in the minority, but Sarah and Lana are my favorite characters who aren't Kents. And it was nice to meet Aubrey and see that Lana has someone else she can talk to, although it might have been nice to see Natalie eating those dinner fries with her. Thank you. And excuse me, Sarah, but Clark absolutely has the legs to pull off those Coach shorts. And I loved Lana's speech at the diner. Who doesn't love the underdog?
The Coach
shorts. Yeah. Clark's
that cracked me up. So funny.
Lois, tough week to be Lois Lane Kent. Husband imprisoned with his homicidal brother. Father is impotent to help. One son accused of drug trafficking and the other caught covering for him. Not to mention the ongoing Allie, Lucy, and apparently Chrissy is... Where is Chrissy? I feel like last we saw her, she and Lois were committed to finding out what was really going on with Allie, and that was a couple episodes ago. Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Clark, lying to Anderson, teaming up with Tal, operating on Tal, taking Tal to the sun, and imprisoning Tal again. Finding out Anderson is taking the K and he killed Bizarro, then having to go home and drag John for the K incident. Just another day in the life of Superman, I guess. I hope we learned something about Tal's wife on the other Earth. Sounds like he was married to Allie. We need to see more of that world, and I need an explanation of Bizarro's appearance. Maybe she did that to him. A vote for Allie being the wife, eh? Not surprised to see Anderson slink off to Allie after disgracing himself with the DOD, and now Allie has the pendant. So it seems like whatever plan Bizarro was trying to prevent just kicked into gear. By the way, where are the irons? I assume John Henry is still in the hospital, but I would think we would see Natalie. Did they leave town? Maybe I'm forgetting or missing something. Yeah, are they all the way in like Metropolis or something? Where are they?
They're in the DOD. He's in the DOD hospital, but we don't know exactly where that is. It may be in Metropolis. We just
because Smallville doesn't have a big hospital like that, right?
No.
I loved how they showed the different kryptonite affecting the various characters differently. Once again, the fights and effects were so good. And once again, we see the K giving a human multiple powers. I'm a bit confused there. I really thought it was one per customer. And I know we've seen Krypton language written, but has it been spoken before? I don't recall. I would have expected to sound more alien, but I can't really explain what that means. Again, he's touching on things I complained about, so I'm not the only one seeing it. But Is that the first time we've heard Kryptonian?
No, Talro's been speaking it since his since his reveal. Huh.
Yeah. But it was cool to see both of them kind of have that conversation.
Yeah. We've never seen a complete back and forth, I don't think.
Right.
Yeah. I did really enjoy that.
So Clark would had to have learnt it from somewhere because he didn't know it as a kid. He landed on Earth as a baby.
I'd assume from Jor-El.
Okay, that's what I would have guessed.
Yeah, from at the fortress.
Yeah. I know these shows never get any recognition, but Tyler Hoechlin and Elizabeth Tulloch deserve acting awards, and the show should get some kind of writing or effects award as well. I know it won't happen. I'm talking the big guys too, not MTV or Nickelodeon awards. Yeah, like the Emmys, right?
Yeah. Well deserved. It'll never happen.
Yeah. I'm giving this episode 9 out of 10 heat vision surgeries. Until next time, Legends Comic Geek Kev. Well, he will not like my rant in the beginning.
I don't know. Jeff and I like the episode.
There you go.
We're with him.
2 out of 3, you're all right. So. All right, and next up we got a treat. It's a voicemail from, I don't know if we've ever heard his voice, but it is Dad L.
Yay.
Hello, fam of Steel. This is Dad L with another feedback for this pretty good episode of Superman and Lois. So much happened again this week. Talro's redemption is coming down the line at some point. I think they made that obvious, the way Cal told them he could apologize to Jordan someday. That is big-time foreshadowing, and I think I'm all in for that. I think Tal truly desires a family, despite his flaws and some of the avenues he tries to get to that point. But it was great to see the two of them, Tal and Cal, team up. They also do a pretty good job speaking Kryptonian. Anderson joining forces with Allie is a good writing move. Consolidating the bad guys for the back half of the season will hopefully lead to continued tight storytelling. And I got to give props to Jordan Elsass. He exhibited some superb acting when he just broke down after talking to his dad. My one nitpick is that it should be obvious who Jonathan is covering for. He's a teenage boy with a girlfriend, and his mom is the greatest reporter in the world. I hope we finally see him admit the truth, only to have Lois say she knew it all along, but wanted him to say it. And finally, my rating, 9 moments of silence for Bizarro. Me am sad. Dad L, last father of Krypton.
Oh, love it. Love it. Thanks, Dad L.
He bent to your desire for more voices after last week when we moved our show. Yeah.
Yay.
Great to hear people's voices.
Good.
That's
awesome. Because we read your words, but we don't know if we're reading it the way you guys sound. I try to put as much, voice acting hurrah and fluff into it as I can, but I don't know that that's how you guys speak, so we just have fun with it. So it's really cool to hear your voices.
It is.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. Last up, we've got Perry White.
Hey, Flash, Harley, and X-Force 11. Perry White here with feedback for Superman Lois's episode, Anti-Hero. Let me go ahead and get my rating out of the way. I'm going to give this episode a 7. There were a couple of issues that I had with it, almost probably made me want to drop it to a 6.5. So let me go ahead and talk about those. As much as I love Elizabeth Henstridge, and as well as she directed the episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., one of my favorite episodes of all times, called As I Have Always Been, I thought that there were at least 2, I have to assume that they were direction choices that were made in this episode that I had an issue with. And let me start with the first one. The first one had to do with I don't know if you want to call it an argument, but essentially the first interaction that Lois had with Jonathan after it was discovered that he had XK at school and got sent home and all that good stuff. Going back to the season 1 episode, Holding the Wrench, and I know these aren't the same sort of issues, and I know they weren't triggered by the same sorts of things, but in that episode, we saw obviously how Lois blew up at Jonathan, essentially blew up at Jordan, blew up at almost everyone, and it was sort of misguided anger for the most part. But to my point, we've sort of seen that reaction that Lois has had. And whether right or wrong in this particular episode, I just thought and assumed and figured that based on that reaction that she had back in season 1, that it might have been beneficial for her to have a more reasoned approach with Jonathan this time around. I know that they had obviously the much better interaction the second time after Lois had the conversation with Lana, but I just thought it would have been probably more appropriate to have at least a more reasoned approach that first go around. And I get it. I know that she was upset. I know that she was angry, and I know that she was obviously dealing with a lot of the issues that Clark was having, and yeah, she flew off the handle. I just personally, and I don't know how many takes they took for that scene. It might have just been one take, it might have been 20, but it just felt like they took the most incendiary take for that scene, and I think it still could have been effective if they had sort of lowered the temperature a notch or two in that first interaction. So I was not totally in sync with that sort of direction choice. The second sort of direction choice, and I have to assume it was a direction choice, it may just totally have been in how the scene was written, but it was the one of the last scenes, and I certainly understand the anger that Clark had when he was dealing with Jonathan about what happened, and that anger was well placed, and I think that particular scene was well done. What was sort of jarring to me to a degree was, even after Clark had expressed such incredible disappointment with Jonathan, I just thought it was a little bit off, the fact that Jonathan would sort of break down and cry in that particular moment. I certainly understand how emotional it was. I certainly can understand how someone might feel in that situation, but I'll be honest, I just was sort of surprised that he would cry in that particular scene. Again, it may have been written as such that it was totally, absolutely, positively going to be a situation where he was going to break down and cry, or it might have been a situation where it was a director's choice to say we need a little bit more of an emotional punch in this particular scene. But I personally just thought that I think the scene could have still hammered itself home in terms of how emotional it was without Jonathan breaking down and crying. Maybe that's just me. Maybe no one else felt that way. I'll be interested to hear what others have to say in terms of feedback about that, but those are just my general thoughts and feelings and initial reactions to both of those scenes. And again, I just thought that they might have been, I think those scenes could have been better served if they had taken a different approach to them. All right, now that I've gotten that out of the way, let me talk about two of my favorite scenes of the episode. And strangely, I guess, or interestingly enough, they both involved Lana for a change. And I know I was just talking about how I didn't fully appreciate the first scene between Lois and Jonathan, but one of the things that it did do was it allowed Lois to take a moment and take a step back, and then go and have an opportunity to talk with Lana about parenthood and that sort of thing. And I really loved the opportunity that Lois and Lana had to sort of sit down and talk to each other about parenthood and missteps and those sorts of things. And I really, really appreciated the scene that those two had together for that moment. Another one of my favorite scenes came sort of toward the end, obviously, as Lana decided to basically stand up to Mayor McDouchebag, because I can't remember his name. But I thought the scene in the diner when she showed up and basically, I don't want to say laid her cards on the table, but basically called the mayor out for basically saying that he was the mayor for the people and that sort of thing, but he wasn't treating Lana the same way. And I really like the fact that she called him out on that. And you could see how that got to the core of the people who were there at the diner with him. So I really, really like that scene as well. And now finally, and I know I'm sort of playing like a emotional roller coaster in terms of my feedback, but these last two things were sort of parts of the episode that I was sort of dumbfounded by, or at least I don't think that I think they were just a little bit off. And the first one has to do with, I'll just go ahead and say it. I absolutely hate, and I don't even know if I want to call it a quick demise, but it felt like, I wasn't ready to see Bizarro go, and I certainly wasn't ready to see Bizarro go at the hands of General Anderson. I would have hoped, and I did hope, that we would have gotten more from the character of Bizarro. I really would have appreciated it. Some more scenes between Bizarro and between Superman so that they could fully understand their similarities and as well as their differences. And I think we were sort of cheated of that by the fact that Anderson took him out so relatively quickly. So I did not like that at all. And the last thing that sort of disappointed me was, and I know I talked a lot about it in the feedback that I sent the previous week, but this whole issue about justice in the Arrowverse and how this whole thing was going to be resolved with Superman being charged with treason. I think they needed to spend a bit more time in how that plot was resolved, because in one instance we basically had General Anderson apparently going off the reservation, but truth of the matter is he had been going off the reservation for quite some time in this episode, and he seemed to have the backing of the U.S. government while he did it. So basically you have Anderson showing up at the fortress and then taking out Bizarro, who for all intents and purposes was someone who's killed 2 U.S. assets, and he and Anderson had a fight to the death. And then basically you have, as soon as that happens, the next scene you see Superman back under the red lamps with Tal-Rho, and I just assumed that he had gone back there. When I say he, I just assumed that Superman had gone back there to essentially turn himself in and remain in prison, and then voila, we find out that he is now, quote-unquote, a free man. I think we needed at least a scene that explained how that happened. I know that Sam had talked to Lois about the fact that he was going to go try and pull some strings and get him out of there, this, that, and the other. But essentially all the U.S. government knew at that time was that General Anderson had gone out to take on Bizarro or try to capture him or whatever the case may be, and he didn't come back. And then all we have, I guess, all the government would have had at that point was Superman's word basically saying that something happened, right? But it also at that point in time, Superman was in custody for treason, had escaped custody, and essentially was a fugitive. It just seems strange that all of a sudden he would be released and be a free man without at least one 30-second explanation of saying, hey, this is what happened and this was why he essentially gets to go free. And I think, and maybe we'll get it in the next episode, but I would have also appreciated a little more time with Superman or Clark sort of sitting with the fact of realizing that basically his government in the blink of an eye turned on him. I think that needs some narrative exploration, and maybe that was just too much to put in this episode, but I think it'll be a grave mistake if we don't get more of that delivered in the next episode. Like I said, I give this episode a 7. I was contemplating giving it something a little bit lower. I just had some significant issues with it. I probably am going to be the only person who has such a low score, because there were probably plenty of other things that were really good about this episode, but it was just hard for me to overlook those shortcomings, at least in my mind. Anyway, I look forward to hearing what others have to say. This has been Perry White. I'm out.
Oh, Perry, don't you wish you could hear our podcast sometimes before you send in your feedback? You are not alone, my friend, and your points were all very valid, but yeah, I'm with you on a lot of that stuff, for sure.
Yeah, and that the whole aspect of justice, of how that works in this universe, and it's a weighty topic. It would be noble if the series dealt with it. Now, I think they can, because they deal with a lot of weighty stuff. I just don't know if they will, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, exactly. And we still got, this is episode 7. We've got now 8 episodes to go, so we're officially pretty much halfway. Right? So
that's true.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to see.
Yep.
This is the end of one kind of storyline, and we're going to get something completely new starting next week. I don't know. We'll have to see. See what they do.
Yeah. Two weeks. We've got Into Oblivion, and a focus of it is on the Irons.
Yay. Okay, good. We'll find out what's going on with them. Cool. All right, guys. Well, 2 weeks from now, you want to get some feedback in, then you just have to follow these instructions.
If you would like to be a part of the show, you can send in your feedback to Tomorrow's Legends Podcast at gmail.com. You can also reach us on Twitter at Tomorrow's Legends. We'd love you to join our Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/Tomorrow's Legends and become part of the community.
Alrighty, that wraps up the show, and thank you everybody for your feedback. And we're off for 2 weeks, so a bit of a break. It's okay.
Yeah. Hey, I've got a lot going on, so I'm good with a week break.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
me too.
It's busy all around right now, so.
Yeah.
I will do my best to get working on Peacemaker, guys, and see if I can finish that for you. So just remember, if you want to watch it and catch up to me, then go ahead and do that. And send me some feedback. Yeah, that is all I got.
Yeah, and our buddies over on Dive Into DC, they've got a deadline coming up for their Batman episode. So if you've seen the Batman, get that feedback into them and share that with them.
Right. Do you know what their feedback email is, Jeff?
DiveIntoDC@gmail.com.
There you go. Yes, we're going to have to start cross-promoting each other. That is our new show. That's part of the Cybercast Network with the Silver Vox and Green Butterfly, and they're just going to talk about all kinds of DC stuff. Movies, TV shows, comics, well, you name it. So, yeah. So there you go, guys.
Yeah.
Check them out and get in some Batman feedback. I'll be doing that myself because I just saw it on Saturday. So that's it for me, guys. This is The Flash, signing off.
And this is Harley Quinn. I'm out.
This is X-Force 11. So say we all.
Tomorrow's Legends is not affiliated with CBS, Warner Brothers, or the CW. We're a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only and are part of the Cybercast Network.